Welcome to the Doubles Only Tennis Podcast, where you learn the best doubles strategies to improve your game and win more matches. I'm your host, Will Bocek. This podcast, my website, and my weekly newsletter all focus on the goal of better understanding the sport of doubles and helping players like you improve faster through actionable advice that you can use in your very next match. My goal is to provide the best doubles strategy resources in the world. And to do that, I study, analyze, and work with players at every level of the game, all the way up to the ATP and WTA tours. If you enjoy this podcast, I've created doubles strategy products that go even deeper if you want to take your doubles knowledge to the next level. At the end of this episode, I'll explain more about them, or if you want to learn more now, go to thetennistribe.com/products. Here's today's episode. This is my last conversation from Indian Wells, this time with WTA number 17 doubles player Ellen Perez. I caught up with Ellen after her second round victory with her partner at Indian Wells, Jelena Ostapenko. We talked about what was clicking in their partnership. We also talk about on-court dynamics. Jelena has a very funny on-court personality, so Ellen shares a little bit of insights into that. We also discussed her coach at Indian Wells, Rennae Stubbs. So Rennae is working with Ellen for Indian Wells in Miami, the Sunshine Double. And I asked Ellen what she's learned from Rennae. As we know, Rennae has a very brilliant strategic mindset, and Ellen shares a little bit about what she's learned and what she's kind of adjusted by working with Rennae. We also talk about partner shakeups early on in this WTA season. And then we get into goals as well as U.S. Open mixed changes. And then strategically, how does Ellen handle playing with a player like Melichar-Martinez, who she partnered with for the past 2.5 years, versus this year playing with Elise Mertens and Jelena Ostapenko so far, who aren't quite as active at the net. They're not really focused on doubles as much. So she talks about what changes or what that changes for her strategically. So this is a very brief conversation. I've had Ellen on several times, so I'll link below to the longer episodes with her if you do want to hear her kind of full story and how she got started in tennis. But without further delay, enjoy this conversation from Indian Wells with Ellen Perez. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm here at Indian Wells again, this time with Ellen Perez. Ellen, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
So this is maybe the third, fourth, fifth episode that we've had you on.
Losing track.
I know we chatted at Indian Wells once before. Talk about how the week's been, as well as kind of how does this part of the year compare to the rest of the tour?
Yeah, so far the week's been really nice. I feel like I've had a pretty kind of cruisy schedule in a sense. I got to play on Thursday and Saturday, and now I've had 2 days off. But I feel like so far I've had the better weather in Indian Wells. I know there's some bad weather coming, and before I got here there was some wind, but no, everything's really nice. It's a very laid-back lifestyle tournament. I've got Rennae Stubbs working with me this week, so I feel like I'm, feeding off some of her good tips and advice. And yeah, just really about having fun. And I feel like, me and Jelena this week have been gelling and having a good laugh. So everything kind of on the court and off the court has been going well.
You mentioned Rennae. I think so. Y'all are going to be working together for the next couple of weeks in Miami as well, it sounds like. What's something you've learned from her over the past week or so here?
I would say the value in making balls uncomfortable back to opponents. I've always been a player that likes to hit pretty hard and aggressive and play on my terms, but sometimes just relying on the fact of making one extra shot is just as valuable, and not always having to create. I think, she's very big on that more handsy type of play. So I'm trying to develop that and kind of, understand where balls should go after, certain shots. So I think she's been valuable in that aspect and many others as well. Yeah,
she's a brilliant kind of strategy mind, as we know. Talk about the partnership with Ostapenko. Y'all are 7-0 now on the year. Y'all won in Abu Dhabi earlier this year. things seem to be clicking. I don't know. Have y'all lost a set this year?
Haven't lost a set. And we've been knowing that when we've gone into tiebreakers, we're like, we can't ruin the record.
Yeah.
But yeah, this partnership kind of came about very last minute. I know she had asked me to play in Brisbane, but I was playing United Cup. And I was obviously also playing with Elise for the start of the year. So it came around to Abu Dhabi and Elise wasn't playing there. So I asked her if she wanted to partner. And yeah, she said she was keen to play. So we started there and everything just went kind of perfect. We had a really good time on court. I thought we clicked right away. And yeah, I think our games matched pretty well and we had a very successful week. And kind of from that, it was always in the back of my mind, like, what could this be? And yeah, just things didn't obviously work out with Elise. We went our different ways, and that was kind of the first person that came to mind. And I knew she wasn't playing with Sue Wei here, so I reached back out and I was like, do we want to do this again? And yeah, she was super receptive, and here we are.
So the next obvious question is, what are the plans going forward for your partnership? There's been a lot of shakeup early in the year. Do you feel like it's been more than most years as far as WTA partnerships?
I do, yeah. I think this year there's a lot of mix-ups, and I feel like some have tried very short periods of time and bailed on each other early, and that's something I'm not so familiar with. I feel like, I want to give it a fair chance in a few tournaments. Normally after Miami is kind of the shake-up where everyone kind of gives themselves those 5-6 big events, and, if you're not cutting it by then, you kind of know. But yeah, there's definitely been some early separations. But I think, it's interesting. It's interesting to see those changes and seeing who, sticks with it, who doesn't. But yeah, for me going forward, I was obviously, early to change from Elise. But yeah, I would obviously love to keep playing with Jelena. I think we work well. But I do know and I'm aware she's been playing with Sue Wei. So I think that's kind of something we wait and see. I'm not trying to get, steal someone, but it would be that situation of if we do work really well, the ball's in her court and I'd love to continue. But yeah, I'm very aware that, you're playing with a singles player. You never know if they're going to play every tournament. Yeah, I'm very aware this year could be very much a switch up and working with whoever's available at different times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like this might be a year where the year-end top 8 is like whoever just kind of stuck together for a lot of tournaments.
Yeah, I think so. I think, I've always, the last few years playing with Nikki, we've always put a big emphasis on making year-end finals. And as great as the year-ends are, I think they're important to have that goal. But I've realized, if it doesn't mean I can't make it there because I switch up a lot, as long as I feel like I'm having successful tournaments throughout the year and, ticking off goals and doing other things and being successful, I'm okay with missing year-ends. But yeah, it would be nice to find that partner and be able to work towards that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think last year moving to Riyadh, the prize money went up pretty significantly. So that's got to be at least a little bit of a factor as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to just give up that great prize money and say, I don't care for it. No, I would love to make it. And I definitely want to find that partner that can work towards it. But I wouldn't be sad if I went on to, win a slam and a 1,000 and whatnot with different partners and never be able to go. I would rather take that year than an averagely good year, but make year ends.
Yeah. Do you have any specific goals for this year in terms of ranking or trying to win a specific tournament or type of tournament, anything like that?
I would always want to improve my ranking every year. I'd said last year I got to 7, so I definitely want to crack top 5. That would be, the number in my head that would make me super happy. I've always put winning a slam as something I'd want to do, and I think, I believe this year it's something that I could do. So that and a 1,000. I think when me and Nikki played, we maybe made about 5 or 6 1,000 finals and didn't win any. So yeah, I'm definitely hungry to go that one extra round. So those would be the goals. So yeah.
Talk a little bit about the mixed doubles changes at the U.S. Open. What were your initial thoughts when it came out? What are your thoughts now?
Yeah, when it first came out, I thought it was ridiculous. I still do believe it's pretty ridiculous. It's purely a revenue, money-based scheme for them, and they sound like geniuses. I will give it to them. What they're trying to sell can be fun and can be enticing, and I think it will make them a lot of money. But I do believe, my first thought is that it's an exhibition and that they're ruining history. They're taking away the value of what it means to be a Grand Slam champion. I think, you can't put a price on that. And I think it's also disrespectful to change the score to a faster format that they're doing. I think that definitely makes it more exhibition in my head. I would also love to see, I think where they're trying to go with it could be really cool. I think you do want to get singles players involved. You do want to grow doubles and make it more interesting. But at some point, I do believe you need to give the doubles players a chance. And, I said that. I was like, look, you're not giving any doubles players a chance. They think that singles would be really good at mixed. And I was like, well, why don't you pit them against each other? Make this a battle. Like, are the doubles as good as the best singles players? And I was like, but you're not going to get that battle if you don't have any. And well, I guess we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see what the draw looks like. I think they've obviously got a lot of wild cards. We don't know how they're going to distribute those. Maybe they do go out and give a bunch
We kind of know, don't we?
I think we do know, but we don't know. Maybe it's a lot of doubles players American.
Yeah. Townsend will get one.
Yeah.
So she's kind of a doubles player.
You would
she plays
assume
singles.
Desiree,
Siniakova might.
Yeah.
Desiree might.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if they can give Irani and Vavasori one past winners, but they could both be in qualifying. How does that kind of look? I don't want to totally trash it until I see the product, but my first thoughts and I believe so. It's not what we want to see going forward.
Yeah, and I don't imagine it's going to stay the same in years to come. I think this is just like kind of the first step, maybe, in like a long series of experiments, I guess.
Yeah.
What about from like a player perspective? So I've talked a lot recently about, and I've had players on who've talked to me about, they're not marketing us enough. At these tournaments, I'd imagine in Australia you get more requests for like media stuff, like going to, I don't know, whatever it is, the tournament asks of you, but how heavy is that being a doubles player versus a singles player? Do you feel like you have free time to kind of dedicate to, if they want to do a photo shoot with Ellen Perez and Jelena Ostapenko to promote the doubles?
Yeah, if anything, we have way more free time than the singles players.
Yeah.
I know that those singles players have a lot of media requests. They have to really work out their schedule, practice times around that a lot. And I see that as a way of easing up some of the pressure on them to be able to, take a few doubles players and use them in a way that helps the tournament as well. But I can tell you now, doubles players have plenty of time and are very willing to get involved. But it's just first starts with that opportunity.
So playing with Ostapenko, she's one of my favorite players to watch on the court because of her mannerisms and personality. What is it like playing with her, though? Like I feel like when I used to watch her play with Ludmila would double fault or something, and she would just do a blank stare to her box. But Ludmila, it didn't seem to bother her that much. Like, I guess because they had a good relationship for so long. Like, I don't know. But what is it like? How do you handle that? What is it like playing with her? Share a little bit of insight on that.
I think Jelena is such a character.
Yeah.
I've thoroughly enjoyed playing with her. I think she actually doesn't take, maybe it's because it's doubles and it's not maybe her sole focus, but she doesn't take things too seriously. Like, she's okay with missing and losing and whatnot. But at the same time, she's super competitive. She wants to win. And, if something bothers her from our opponents, she'll fire up and probably play some of her best tennis. But in terms of us, I feel like she's pretty supportive. She's all about, she'll sometimes tell me, like, just hit the ball. I don't care if you miss, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's reassuring. It's like she actually doesn't care. It's as long as we do it in the right way. And there's moments, she'll try and give me a little bit of advice, like, you got to get closer to it, this and that, little things. And I think it's important as long as you take it in the right way. I look at it as, she's an experienced player with a good grasp on the game. So I try and take it in a positive manner. And most of the things, if not, I laugh it off. I don't take many things in life too seriously. There's moments she might miss a volley over the fence and I just look at her and laugh, and she does the same to me. And I think that is the nice part. It's like, they don't technically mean it. You can understand, sometimes things are just funny. I'd say that's kind of the dynamic.
What about, so you played with Nikki for like 2.5 years. She's obviously a doubles player, active at the net. Played with Elise earlier this year, and then now Elena. They're not quite as active at the net. They're not really poaching on balls, or that they don't have that kind of doubles movement at the net, I would say. Probably because they're not working on it in practice, because again, it's not their priority, like you said. How does that change things for you strategically or tactically? Are there things that you are able to communicate with her and say, like, hey, I need more help at the net, let's run I formation? Or how do you kind of approach that?
Yeah, for sure. It's a very different approach playing with all of them. With singles players like Elise and Jelena, they have their, things that they're amazing at, the return and from the baseline game. So it's trying to put them in scenarios where they can do what they do best a lot of the time. So it was looking more like them on the baseline, me trying to get to the net. But both of them, everyone, those players, they're very comfortable at the net too. Maybe don't read the best times to move and things like that. But when you can set up the court to kind of bring them into it, they do their job. And I think it's sometimes being aware of what they're vulnerable at and what they're good at, and making sure that we set up the plays in that way. Or just like a lot more like actually calling go, or like I and go here. And then it's like very simple to let them know what their job is in that moment, the first one or two shots. And then when the point gets going, it comes down to instinct. And sometimes, that's where things could get messy, but that's doubles. I think if you can kind of structure the court in the first three balls, then you're good to go from there.
Good advice. First three balls there.
Yeah.
Okay. Ellen, I think that's all I got today. Thank you again for hopping on. Hopefully we will chat again soon, and we're looking forward to watching you the rest of the season.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Doubles Only podcast. If you're interested in diving deeper into any topics I discuss, I've created doubles strategy products that allow me to bring you more podcasts and other doubles content without relying on paid ads. I have ebooks and courses that help you make better strategic decisions during matches and become the smartest player on the court. Go to thetennistribe.com/products to learn more. You can also join my free weekly doubles strategy newsletter that includes video lessons and more on our homepage. If you want to connect, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or email me directly, will@thetennistribe.com.